And then also here with us this morning with Abdul Dauda, who is a member of the Nigerians in Diaspora Organization America, with some 35 years working experience at UPS. We've always had him on Good Morning Nigeria. Pleasure to have you join us again.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay.
And also from our Kaduna studio, we have joining us Dr. Kabiru, or Professor Kabiru Matu, a public affairs analyst, and of course a political scientist. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kieran. Thank you.
And we also like to welcome Dr. Shegu Bolarinwa, Senior Research Fellow and Head Division of Security and Strategic Studies, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Lagos. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's time for us to take the tweets from Nigerians.
We have their reactions that have come in. Do not forget that we still have the Minister of Information and Culture, with whom we began the conversation about 20 minutes ago. But there are other reactions that have come in by way of tweets, and our viewers have used the Twitter handle. You can see it on the screen there at NTA GMN. Kira, let's take some of the tweets now, then we'll go to the other guests who've joined us. Law Afasi has this. President Buhari's visit to the U.S. was historic and result-oriented, and his speech was apt, truthful, and thorough.
Now, from Sani Michael Omokoji, he says that the gains of President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to America is not just the promise of U.S. government to repatriate Nigeria's stolen money, but also more plan to collaborate in the areas of trading and fighting terrorism.
And this is from Nasiru Idris. President Donald Trump should visit the Nigerian president, should visit Nigeria on a state visit to reconcile his statement of amazing and beautiful country. And by so doing, Africans will have a second thought about him.
All right, from Delajak Solomon, the meeting between the two presidents was a way forward to advancing U.S.-Nigeria's shared priorities, promoting economic growth and reforms, fighting terrorism and other threats to peace and security, and building on Nigeria's role as a democratic leader in the region. This we must not fail to do.
All right, this is another one again from Law Afasi. The Nigerian leader should make full use of the trip to the U.S. and the pledge to assist Nigeria by Donald Trump to tackle terrorism. It's exciting that President Buhari is highly respected by renowned world leaders, and they wish he visits often.
Now, Mike Anyako says, President's visit to USA is an opportunity to leverage on strategic partnership aimed at deepening relations between Nigeria and the USA. The gains of the visit should center on security, agriculture, irrigation, investment, transport, aviation, wealth creations, trade balance, and employment.
Abdul Musa has this tweet, take it or leave it. The visit of President Buhari to the U.S. on the invitation of President Donald Trump is a sign of approval of his administration. Knowing President Trump, you have to give kudos to President Buhari for the way and manner he is piloting the affairs of the country.
Now from Mike Anyako again, the gains of PMB, that's President Muhammadu Buhari, the USA visit should center on a national carrier project. We need national carrier.
And then Dolly Jack Solomon, it says President Trump is a smart man. He used President Buhari's visit as an opportunity to soothe diplomatic relations with Africa. So soothe diplomatic and multilateral relations with African countries after his negative comments on Africa.
Yes, I was going to go to that negative comment. But
right.
the final one we have here is from Festus Akimboewa. He says, perhaps the greatest gain of President Buhari's visit to the U.S. is that both countries demonstrated a common interest in maintaining a close relationship. And at personal or political levels, the visit offered a platform for President Buhari to promote his political goals.
All right, those are the tweets that we have. In the meantime, let's quickly go over now to our 4 new guests who've joined us. Professor Kabiru Matu from our Kaduna Network Center. Give us your assessment of the outcome of the president's visit to the U.S.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I think what a lot of people seems to be actually shoving aside, which in my view constitutes the most important gain of that visit, is the apparent, acceptance of the role of the leader, an individual in foreign policy cycles. the reception that the Nigeria's president received in the United States of America, in my view, aside from the nitty-gritty items that were discussed and the benefits that are likely to accrue to Nigeria, in my view, constitute the fulcrum of what Nigerians will see as a success. The tactical reintegration of Nigeria and the acceptance, of a credible leadership that exists in the country, in my view, leads the entire pack. Here we are coming from a scenario where our leaders were held suspect by leaders of the advanced capitalist social formation. We are now, at a time when the leader was invited, was, appreciated, and you could, see the lots of accolades, not only in the United States of America, but all over the places that the president visited, indicating the fact that, there is a leadership course in Nigeria now. And of course, a nation is not able to achieve any meaningful growth and development, be it in its economy, be it, in its politics or the society generally, if the issue of leadership is lacking. And so I think the major, the major benefits that I think accrued to Nigeria during this visit is the apparent, high-profile reception and the recognition of the character, and the acceptability of the quality of the Nigerian leader. This, to me, is most important. And then, of course, followed by other issues in the economic dimension, the security, and the various aspects of policies, that were brought out and clearly, projected as the right way to go.
All right, we'll return to you.
Professor Mato, thanks a lot. We'll just give you some time to take a sip of water, or if you have a teacup there, so you can take some tea. All right, Professor Mato, thanks a lot. We'll come back to you. Let's go very quickly now to Lagos, where we just introduced Dr. Segun Bolariwa. You have a question?
All right, it's the same question, Dr. Bolariwa. You've listened to the minister about some minutes ago, talking about what he believes it should be the benefits of that visit. And I've also listened to Professor Mato there in Kaduna. What's your own assessment of this visit? Because I'm sure as a research fellow, you have been following the president's trip to the U.S.
Yes, of course. The president's visits to the United States is it's an indication of a renewed vigor in Nigeria-U.S. relations. And of course, as the minister earlier stated, it is the first of its kind under President Donald Trump to meet with an African leader. And behold, the African leader who actually fitted into that case is our own dear President Muhammadu Buhari. So that alone first shows an international recognition, shows an advanced stage of Nigeria's image on international stage. And particularly, you can see from the statement of the American president. President Trump said the president's, he commended President Buhari's vigor and the strength and intention and even successes he has recorded in the fight against corruption, and particularly also in the area of security. So to me, it is a very good thing. It is also a giant step taken by the president for their country, Nigeria, who actually is on the right path to his own glory too. So for this, Nigeria should just develop on this good foundation laid by our dear president. Another major thing that I see there is that people should be aware and people should know now that it is President Trump that invited President Muhammadu Buhari. If there is no good thing, or if there are no major issues or things the president wants to comment about or to discuss about, our own president will not be invited. That invitation alone is a sign of recognition, is a mark of respect for Africa and particularly Nigeria. And this also gives Nigeria as a country the recognition, the respect, the honor we deserve as the biggest black nation in the whole world. Not only that, from even the statements made by the minister, we also know that President Trump says Nigeria is also a good market. It's a good market for America. Beyond that, our population is huge. Our population is full of quality and a lot of things we can do together. And that's why the president has invited our own President Muhammadu Buhari. So to me, it's a sign of good thing. It's a sign of progress. It's a path to sustainable development. And it's also a path to sustainable recovery, which the present administration under President Muhammadu Buhari has started well. The truth is that no one builds his house from the roof. Every house is built from the foundation. And that's what President Muhammadu Buhari is doing for this dear country, Nigeria. And that's what the global leaders have seen in us. And that's why President Muhammadu Buhari was invited for such a meeting. And you know, so many agreements were made, so many things were discussed, so many progress, or the progress we have recorded were commended, and so some other promises and agreements were made, from trade to investment to security. And you can also see that American government had pledged to also sell to us A-29 fighter jets, 12 A-29 fighter jets to sustain our fight against insurgency and terrorism. They have also pledged to also repatriate a lot of starched funds into America.
All right, Dr. Waishegun Bolarinwa, we'll come back to you later in the course of the conversation. But just one little point to clarify. Kalkiri and I discussed this when we were starting the program, and the minister also spoke to that. President Buhari is the first sub-Saharan African leader to visit the U.S. If it's the entire African continent, then that will be the Egyptian president. But regardless, President Buhari was very well received, as you have said, and that's what we are still exploring. Let's bring in Ambassador Dauda Danladi. What's your take on this? I'd like you to discuss this essentially from the security perspective, considering the role of the U.S., for instance, in Pakistan, and what it's also been with dealing with terror and support for groups dealing with terror in Afghanistan.
Well, I think, first of all, it cannot be overemphasized that the invitation of President Trump to President Buhari is a testimony, or is a reaffirmation of Nigeria's strategic position in Africa. It is also a testimony of the personal integrity of Mr. President, his honesty, transparency, and accountability. And President Buhari took 3 key areas to U.S. One is security cooperation. And in terms of security cooperation, terrorism has assumed a global dimension, and terrorism is speaking with one voice. And Nigeria, having suffered from the menace of insurgency in the Northeast, coupled with other insurgencies within Nigeria, I think it is a very good strategy that the president has made it very clear to President Trump Nigeria's quest to acquire the necessary technology, the necessary equipment to fight and combat the menace of terrorism in this country. In Pakistan, as you know, has a long history of terrorism as a result of their contribution towards the recovery of Afghanistan from the Soviets during the Soviet invasion. And Pakistan ended up with about 39 terrorist organizations. But Pakistan has been able to minimize and to eliminate most of the terrorist organizations, leaving about 5 of them. And that's the Taliban of Pakistan, the Taliban of Afghanistan, the Haqqani network, and of course the Al-Qaeda. Now, Boko Haram, as you know, it's mind-boggling that this radical group have the capacity to operate T-55 tanks, have the capacity and the capability to operate RPGs, and to drive armored personnel carriers. What this tells is that there must be a kind of a link, a collaboration through the Arab Maghreb, from Mauritania to Mali to Libya, and of course, possibly to Chad, and to Boko Haram. It's just impossible for somebody, a group of people, to just wake up one morning and to have the capacity and the capability to operate sophisticated equipments, tanks, and armored personnel carrier. So what we did was to try and find out if there was a link. And of course, there was a remote link, because based on intelligence sharing and information, we were able to trace that Al-Qaeda contributed, funded through the Arab Maghreb the activities of Boko Haram. And therefore, I think the approach that Mr. President has taken, and of course Nigeria has been leading the regional effort towards the eradication of terrorism, and with the support of U.S. And the strong support of U.S., whereby now hitherto the reluctance to sell arms and equipment to Nigeria, I think the doors have opened for the professionalization of our armed forces towards combating the menace of terrorism. And we also have a strong collaboration with Pakistan. Pakistan, of recent, have delivered about, I think, 6 Super Mushak trainer aircrafts to Nigeria, and they, of course they have sent in also a team that will assist in reprofessionalizing our Air Force. And I believe that this triangle cooperation, the U.S. of course is supporting Pakistan, as you know. It gives all kind of aids to Pakistan in order to maintain stability in that region, Pakistan being a nuclear power, and the need to ensure that it does not fall into the hands of a terrorist group is very, very important to global peace and security.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. You may recall also that Boko Haram pledged allegiance to ISIL. Yes. So the collaboration, like you have established, has always been there. All right. Thank you indeed. And let's go to Abdul Dauda. Abdul Dauda is a member of the Nigerians in the diaspora. So you have lived in America for over 35 years. So you've garnered experience over the years. Now, what's your assessment? Of course, knowing what Nigerians in diaspora also feel about Nigeria, what's your assessment of the president's visit to the U.S.?
Thank you very much. I still remember when Trump was elected, and there are certain scenarios that run through. And one of the scenarios was not what occurred the last week. When I had the invitation and I saw the preparation, and the first thing I saw was the Honorable Minister Honorable Minister of Information in the U.S. doing a groundwork in preparation for the visit, telling the Nigerian story, because that's really key, because some of the things that have been missing in the first, because we are misunderstood sometimes. So the minister did an excellent job. And then coming with the president, I guess in my wildest dream, I didn't see the day that will happen, but I was very happy. And from a diaspora perspective, we were very happy to see that that visit is actually taking place. And, you know, it's not only just a visit. From the American perspective, from Donald Trump and the American people, it's more an acknowledgement. It's an acknowledgement to the good leadership and the work that the Nigerian president have been making or have been gaining and the rest. So it's acknowledgement to say thank you, and also to say how do we work together and move forward. And as has been said already on the panel, there are a lot of strategic areas that both the President Buhari and Donald Trump have discussed and signed bilateral agreement that they will forge and move ahead. And there are admiration between the two presidents too, and contrary to the belief of what is happening now, as a Nigerian living in the U.S., our profile has been uplifted based on this visit also, and also of all Nigerians that travel through to the U.S. So the visit was a success, and there were a lot of comment and also discussion that were made. And I think the one thing we'd like to see also part of the visit is, now that we're back home, is to make sure all the discussions that have been made, document them, and then follow up and actualize some of the statements that have been made. Once all this are done, we'll be able to see maybe 6 months down the road area to see how we did with the visit, because it's not just going to do the visit, it's coming back, consolidate on what was discussed and itemize and see how we do the following up.
If you recall, when President Trump was president-elect in 2016, after the presidential election, we had it on Good Morning Nigeria, where we're discussing the prospects of the Trump presidency. Now, the consensus seemed to, at the time, to have been that Africa might not feature prominently on, excuse me, on his agenda, and that, you know, since he was projecting America first. But here we are, from what you are saying and from what we are seeing, he has picked out Nigeria for his African projection. What does that signify?
Africa being, Nigeria being the largest country black country in Africa, and in terms of economic, because if you go back, America and Nigeria have been in a trade relationship for a long time. It's not today that it started. So to continue along that line by picking Nigeria, which is the largest economy, and fostering and re-engaging that relationship, you know, it's a plus-plus. I guess it's a win-win for both Nigeria and the U.S. And also in terms of, there are other statements that were made where the American president made the promise that he will break some of the trade barrier to make it more balanced in terms of trading with Nigeria, especially on the agric, that impact the agric section here in Nigeria, to make sure to allow the small players to get into export of food commodities into the U.S. So pick Nigeria, yeah, because that's the biggest prize really for America in terms of economic, establishing their economic footfall. And as you know, since we've been going, the Chinese have been in Nigeria and in Africa. So America can't stand on the sideline. They have to engage. So.
All right, Abdullahi Dauda, thank you very much indeed. We'll return to you as we move on. But now back to the Honorable Minister of Information. Honorable Minister, what would you say about the agreement for the repatriation of over $500 million back to Nigeria? What part of the money is snatched away from this country?
I think that again is an important turning point. Before now, we've had difficulties in getting money, looted funds returned to the country. And I think the commitment of the U.S. to return about $500 million US, I think also speaks to the confidence President Trump has in our fight against corruption. And I think that's going to send a very good signal to other parts of the world where our, looted funds have been stashed. And I think it's also going to send a very powerful signal to the looters that there's no longer any hiding place for looted funds.
Is there a sense in which there will be some urgency to the repatriation? Because we have seen the long drawn-out process, for instance, with Switzerland.
Yeah, yes, you see, fighting corruption is one of the most difficult tasks any person, any government can set for himself. Because when you fight corruption, corruption also fights back furiously. So these setbacks are not unexpected. But the most important thing is, I think, the vigor and the consistency with which Mr. President has been fighting corruption. And I think that's what has impressed President Donald Trump. And that is why this committee has come. And we hope that as time goes on, other countries also would do the same.
All right, thank you very much. Let's return to our Kaduna Network Center. Professor Kabiru Mato, we hope that you've warmed yourself up now with a cup of coffee, I believe. Of course, you grow a lot of ginger in Kaduna. Now let's take a look at this. Some of the guests have brought out some of the key points in the President's visit, in addition to what you said. You are, of course, familiar with the perspective that, look, the EU, for instance, and now the US are playing catch-up on account of the inroads made by China into the African continent, of which Nigeria, again, is very crucial. In all of this, and then against the background of the President's interaction with the US President, what would be, or what should be, Nigeria's strategic interest in managing these multilateral relationships, especially with the US, the EU, and then China?
I think what's most important in international relations is for any particular actor to deploy all resources at his or her disposal in order to be able to achieve the objectives that he or she has set for himself or herself. In this case, the scramble, well, this apparently what seems to be happening is yet another era of scramble, even if without partitioning of Africa in the areas of, economic activities. And I think what we must do as a nation is to try to cash in on the opportunities that are open to us, arising from the kind of leadership, the character of leadership that exists in Nigeria today. And what are these opportunities? The opportunities are open in the areas of securing foreign investment. That's very critical. Not necessarily taking over the economy from its local operators, but collaborating in order to be able to strengthen both manufacturing and industrial sector. And of course, also in this relationship, you see that the focus of this government since inception in 2015 has been on generating growth from within. And the most, available area, of course, is agriculture, which the government has been talking about over time, and mining. And I think so what we need to do here is to ensure that we revolutionize our agriculture in terms of the way and manner that we do it. And of course, government is making a lot of commitments we have seen in that area to such an extent that there is a massive reduction in the import of, food items that previously were produced in this country. But, as a result of the decadence paralysis that the nation found itself in over decades of misrule, we resulted in mass importation of this. Now, this is being reversed gradually, and I think it's a major area that we must pay attention to ensure that for us to be able to industrialize, for instance, there are very few histories for countries on the surface of the earth that have succeeded in achieving industrialization without the capacity to feed themselves. So for us to be able to tap in on the opportunities that are availed now, I think it's for Nigerians to be apparently more patriotic. Yes, this is still severely lacking. We need to identify and resolve in our minds that we need to make progress. The idea is that if on a daily basis we deliberately, misinterpret good intentions of leadership for personal political gains or for some very, micro experiences, and I think we are going to continue to face the crisis that we are facing. But the important thing I think in this case is for us as a nation to clearly define what our objectives are and what we wish to achieve in the relations with these superpowers that apparently seems to be scrambling over not just the continent of Africa as a whole, but Nigeria in particular, given the numerous human and material resources that are found in this country. So it's left for the leadership now to strategically chart a course, identify what the objectives are, while at the same time mobilizing the national population into productive ventures so that we are able to, achieve, and not just to rely on a kind of international economic relations that will be beneficial to the other country, or on the other hand, Nigeria becoming or continuously becoming a dumping ground of finished, sometimes substandard products. We must have very clearly defined focus and objectives of what we will wish to achieve in our relations with each of these superpowers. And I think one of the take-homes in President Buhari's visit to Washington, D.C. Was the fact that, first and foremost, this respectability that seemed to be lacking as far as governance structure in Nigeria is concerned is gradually and fastly too giving way. One of the major complaints that everybody outside of this country, especially foreign governments, will continue to levy against the leadership in Nigeria was corruption. And here we are, of course, with corruption, nobody will desire to make any meaningful investment or even the support, by development partners that is supposed to come into the country. So first and foremost, confidence is being restored. Now it's left for the government to clearly chart a course of action and what the preferences are and organize them in the continuum of, priority for them to be able to pursue it, and then at the same time mobilizing the citizenry into taking advantage and tapping the various openings that are made available arising from the new realities that Nigeria apparently is enjoying.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Maltu. I think he raised a very interesting, point here, arising from the question, Kingsley put to him, which has to do with the scrambling over Nigeria, because we're a huge population, so we have a big market, and perhaps that's what the leaders in super countries, as you mentioned, are really looking out for. Remember that during Obama's regime, Nigeria didn't have it well. In fact, Africa as a whole, there was barely little or no much of relationship between Africa, America, and Nigeria. So now America has stopped buying Nigeria's oil, and the trade currently between Nigeria and America is lopsided. It is heavily in favor of the U.S. I think Matu raised an important issue here to clearly define the objective of the nation, because of course China, not just China, the Asian tigers, they are here. Right, sir. How would you react to this? What is that strategy that we must put in place to ensure that we're not shortchanged?
Now, if you go back again to our economic recovery and growth plan, it will be very clear that Nigeria, what we are doing today is building self-sufficiency in our economy. And I will just take the example of, agriculture, for instance. Not only have we reduced by 90% importation of, commodities such as rice, but we've also grown rice farming in Nigeria to an extent that was never thought before. For instance, before 2015, what about only 5 million rice farmers all over Nigeria? Today, we do have over 11 million rice farmers all over this country. Before 2015, we had only about, I think, 13, if I'm correct, I think 13 integrated rice processing mills. Today, we have 21. And another 10 were just approved, 2 weeks ago. Actually about 10 days ago. Now, so we can see that our economic recovery growth plan is centering on 1, food security, 2, encouraging small and, small and medium, scale industry. But more importantly, you can see this attempt to wean ourselves from dependence on external or foreign countries in all our economy. And this is paying off massively. Now, if you look at our social investment program, for instance, today, Nigeria feeds 7.5 million pupils every day. Now, if you look at the exponential effect of that alone, it's not only encouraging, school enrollment, it's attacking malnutrition at its foundation. At the same time, it's encouraging farmers because they are now,
yeah, still on the, excuse me, still on farming.
Yes.
And the gains that have been recorded. I would like Malam Abdullahi Dauda to also speak to this. A lot of investment is still required, particularly with regard to inputs and machinery. How possible, again, could it be? We are a nation in a hurry, almost invariably, because of the lost time and lost opportunities that we have had in the past. How can we ramp up very quickly investment in our domestic economy by U.S. companies, for instance, with regard to farming machinery, with regard to inputs, and all other things that can help further give a boost to our agricultural output at the moment?
Yeah, I think to answer that question, Kingsley, with the president's visit, there is a reassurance from the American president in terms of assistance, and I believe President Buhari did make a request that the U.S. should invest in technology. And when you talk of agri, that's what you're referring to. What are the technological advantage that we can import from the U.S. to help the Nigerian farmers in terms of escalating and accelerating the production in Nigeria?
All right, thank you very much. Let's return to Lagos. Dr. Shagun Bolarewa, still on the strategic national interest, what can Nigeria leverage on, considering, again, the fact that we are virtually now a beautiful bride to the EU, to China, and most importantly, Trump's America?
Yes, a lot that Nigeria can leverage on. President Muhammadu Buhari has done so well with this visit, and he has also highlighted all we have been doing under his administration since 2015, and also what we need them to do for us. And that's why President Trump has also made a lot of promises. For example, he has promised that he's going to continue to support Nigeria's efforts and Nigeria's fight against insurgency in the Northeast, and particularly in West Africa. That is also going to support Nigeria in the area of selling more arms to us. Like I mentioned earlier, they have promised 12 new fighter jets, A-29 fighter jets, to help us, also, and some other ammunitions. Beyond that, he has also promised in the area of trade to increase trade relations. Strategically, Nigeria is the biggest strategic partner of the U.S. in Africa. And that's why even America itself cannot do without Nigeria, not only because of markets, not only because of our huge population, but also because Nigeria has always been a very good friend of the United States of America. And that's why American government under President Trump also have been able to commend that. So Nigeria should also just improve more, try to, through the binational commission. Of course, people should know that there are only about 4 binational commissions in Africa, and Nigeria is one. So through the binational commission, Nigeria should just leverage on it to actualize the agreement signed on the trade and investments, on agriculture, on also security, particularly the fight against terrorism and the fight against insurgency in the Northeast, which Nigerian government had done so well between 2015 and now, by the grace of God.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Bolarewa. Time is not on our side at the moment, and we'd like to quickly return to Ambassador Dauda Danladi with his experience in Pakistan. Let me say this. Over the years, Nigerian leaders have been welcomed in America, and bilateral agreements signed by leaders at the time. Now, what's different now? Because one, after all those agreements in the past, not much was seen, coming from America.
Yeah, I agree with you, because once agreements are signed, if countries do not put in place focus group that will implement these agreements, then it becomes moribund. But in the case of this particular visit, I think from all indication, the seriousness of this government, and from what the Honorable Minister of Information gave to Nigerians, I think there is a silver lining in the sky. For example, we are hopeful that the agreement for the takeoff of the national airline carrier would be a reality. We have seen officials during this visit having meetings with Boeing, one of the biggest aircraft manufacturers in the world, and from all indications, there is great hope that it will sail through. In addition, let me just quickly say this. On critical infrastructure, it is heartwarming that officials again met with the GE-led consortium towards actualizing the rail line, upgrading or modernization of our rail line, from particularly from the one from, I think, Lagos to Kano, and again, the one from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri.
Yeah, that's the
now,
eastern flank.
yes. Now, from all indication, this government is putting in place, I think, strategic focus group that will ensure the success of these agreements, unlike in the past.
All right, I'm just wondering, I'm still with you, Ambassador Danladi, very quickly. What do we need to do as a country, to ensure that strategic security cooperation and collaboration is sustained until such a time that Nigeria, of course, is rid virtually of the insurgency? Because we find, for instance, with Pakistan, the security cooperation and collaboration with the U.S. has been sustained over decades.
Yes. Yeah, you see, insurgency, once it has reached a critical mass, it's very difficult to eradicate at a go. And you can look at the history in Afghanistan. I've been to Afghanistan several times. And what is required is for us to have a cooperation and a collaboration with, especially with the U.S., on intelligence gathering, intelligence sharing, and at the same time to try and ensure that there is no linkage between other terrorist organizations and the ones that are operating here. We must put in place a strategy that will curtail or contain the influence. For example, ISIS have been defeated, but they have migrated to the Sahel region. And the possibilities of them creating problems, especially within the Sahel region, is there, unless we have the necessary tool and equipment. And you're talking about sophisticated intelligence equipment that could only be provided by the US.
At this point, thank you very much indeed. I also know that in Pakistan, they have not totally, dismissed all the terrorist group there. It's still, even with the American support. So, all right, Honorable Minister, let's get your last, thoughts on this before we go to what Nigerians.
We have our last set of tweets, and then before. Because there are some tweets that perhaps the minister will respond to, and then we'll use that to get his closing thoughts. Let's take some of these tweets now. That will be our last set. We're already pressed for time. Okay. Now, Efak Bokire Joseph tweets. Now, note that President Buhari wants Nigeria to eat what we grow. Yet, Trump said in the joint press conference that Nigeria will get agricultural produce from the U.S. Whatever the point of that meeting, Trump is placing the interests of Americans first. President Buhari should be careful. All right. Now, Omo Bolahan says, for everyone that knows POTUS, Ray Donald Trump, he's not lavish in praise, but the accolades accorded at the NGPR President Buhari is a pointer that even shocked the naysayers, coupled with that Buhari's composure during the visit. We must therefore take it from there to make Nigeria work. Abdul Musa has this tweet. Now, the issue regarding the export of agricultural produce by the U.S. to Nigeria should be thoroughly examined in order not to draw the country back in terms of the achievements made so far in the agricultural sector. All right, now let's get to Law Alpha. President Trump, he said the visit and the pledge by President Trump to assist Nigeria tackle wanton killings in Nigeria was not realized. Then the dream or the trip would have been a flick. All right. Now, those are the things that we have. David Elbo taking the last one. It says, better outing to the U.S. Now, interesting meeting between the president and Donald Trump. However, it's all promises. Thou shalt not live by promises alone. That's according to Law Alpha C. All right. Now, let's get to the minister for his last thought on this, because the time is only going to say. Yes, your last thoughts on our conversation.
Well, I think from all indications, the president's visit to the U.S. has been a roaring success. It is important that the engagement continues. What I found out during my trip to Washington and New York is that we need more and more of such engagement. and that it is very important for us to change the mindset of our partners and of our foreign partners in particular. There was a matter that came up which I think is important to mention here. When I was in the US discussing and interacting with the major media, global medias and global media and global think tanks, which has to do with the insecurity in the country, and two, in particular, the herdsmen-farmers clash. It's unfortunate, and it is important for us to continue to put the record straight that what we have today in terms of herders-farmers clash has nothing to do with religion, has nothing to do with ethnicity, that rather is more environmental, more economic, and more demographic. In particular, it's important to note that what we are witnessing today is that with the climate change, which has affected Lake Chad in particular, which has lost 90% of its surface water, the 35 million inhabitants from 6 African countries that used to depend on that Lake Chad for farming, for fishing, for irrigation, now have to move elsewhere, and that is where the clashes are. And
just a sub point, a sub text to that is that President Muhammadu Buhari himself has been championing the recharging of Lake Chad. Honorable Minister, we are pressed for time. We'd like to thank you. Of course, we have other opportunities of having you on Good Morning Nigeria. Let's appreciate all our guests. We'd like to thank Professor Kabiru Mato. Always a delight having you join us from our Kaduna Network studios, and thanks a lot for your insights. Thank Dr. Seun Bolarinwa, Senior Research Fellow, Head of Division of Security and Strategic Studies at NIA, that is Nigerian Institute of Strategic Studies, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. I take that again. He's of NIIA, that is Nigerian Institute of International Affairs at Victoria Island, not too far away there from our Lagos Network studios. Thanks a lot for being with us this morning. We also would like to thank Ambassador Dauda Danladi, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Pakistan, with concurrent accreditation to Afghanistan. Thanks a lot for being around today.
Thank you very much.
And always, Malam Abdullahi Dauda, a member of the Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, of course, lived several decades in the U.S. Thanks a lot also for being with us this morning. And last but not the least, we'd like to appreciate the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we are pressed for time. We're unable to take our sports stories. Kirian and I, and as well as Adusupa Revere, we had given you the major highlights of the soccer match that took place last night. Liverpool scraping the way through to the finals against Real Madrid.
We're waiting for 26th.
All right, let's take the weather forecast now for the rest of the day.